I'm an old Canuck head too. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This week, I want to talk about one of the most famous Marvel superheroes ever, Wolverine. But this is not just your Hulk 181 episode, even though I will be getting to that. This is another Barry Windsor-Smith retrospective where I want to talk about one of the great maybe the greatest Wolverine story ever written, Weapon X, which has been influential in film, of course, in X-Men film and beyond, which I think takes a lot of inspiration from even the great filmmakers that exist already, and which I think is such a, all-encompassing, definitive Barry Windsor-Smith work and one of the best Marvel comics of all time. So if you're a Wolverine fan, or if you're somebody who's just a Barry Windsor-Smith guy, or somebody interested in, the greatness that can be achieved in the comic book form, in the comic book medium, you're going to see it today in the pages of Weapon X. Weapon X is a bit of a longer book. It's a longer collection because it was originally published as several issues in Marvel Comics Presents, right? It was like a side story back then in the 90s in Marvel Comics Presents. So instead of showing you every single page of the entire storyline, which, yeah, would be cool, I want to look at just a few different key pieces and talk about what Barry Windsor-Smith is doing there and why these are some of my favorite parts of the story. And that way, if you haven't read it, I won't be, spoiling the entire thing for you. You can go out there and get it and enjoy it for yourself. So let's take a look at Weapon X now and dive right in. Now, guys, I hate dust jackets, okay? This had a dust jacket on it. It's back there somewhere on my shelf. I hate dust jackets. I always take off dust jackets. That's why you're seeing my Weapon X look like this. But I mean, this is friggin' awesome. Look at that. It's like a woodcut Barry Windsor-Smith Wolverine. Like, how cool, whatever, right? Don't judge me, okay, for taking off my dust jackets. And here we go into Weapon X. And I'm going to show you the start because I think it's amazing. Now, something else that's so different about Weapon X and Barry Windsor-Smith's work here is that he does every little bit of it. The page layouts, the colors, the pencils, the writing, everything is the vision of Barry Windsor-Smith. And what's really cool about that is how rare that is, especially at the big two. That's something you really usually you only see with indie comics. And it just goes to show what kind of an artist, writer, creator Barry Windsor-Smith is, that he has all these tools, that he can put the whole picture together. He even lettered the thing. And what an amazing painting, really, when you think about it. It's almost like an incredible, tragic paint. If you saw this in a museum and it was like 3 meters across, just imagine it, right? So here's where it begins. Weapon X is unique for so many. Oh, he didn't letter it. I lied to you. Sorry. Weapon X, though, anyway, is unique for so many reasons, most of which, whatever the phrase is the incredible page layouts and the back and forth way the story is told. It's happening in the future and it's happening in the past at once. It's Wolverine before he was Wolverine. Okay, I should say, if you don't know the origin story, Wolverine has always been a mutant, right? He's always been, just like all the other X-Men, born mutant, born different. But the adamantium, that, very serious steel that is now bound to his bones, that isn't how things started. He was kidnapped. He was experimented upon in this program, the Weapon X program, where the adamantium was bound to his bones and he was being, shaped and molded into like a perfect weapon, the Weapon X, this killing machine, this mindless beast that could be sent anywhere to do anything, basically. And the dehumanization of Logan, the dehumanization of the character we now know as Wolverine, this is where it happens. Like, there's a lot of themes of torture and like I said, dehumanization and machine and technology and control and experimentation and body horror. And there's so much I mean, it's almost overwhelming to look at it. You know, the first time I read Weapon X, I didn't like it because I found it like claustrophobic and difficult to follow. And it is. It's something you have to work for, you know? It's like a real fine piece of writing where if you just want superheroes beating each other up, this is not the Wolverine story for you. This is like a real literary work where there's a lot going on these pages, and it almost requires reading and reading again to really get a sense of. And you can see that, like, here's Wolverine, and then here's a piece of storytelling, and then obviously something's happening here that isn't in the same time frame as this and that. Like, there's your professor again too. And after reading it once and, you know, reading it again and going back and thinking about it before making this video, you really get a feeling, or I really got a feeling of what a work this is. Like, imagine not only writing this, which, by the way, everything that's happening here is written, right? Everything that's drawn here is telling you story. Look at these little panels. Look at these little details. Are these Logan's dreams? What's this? Is this Logan? What is it, right? It's abstract in a lot of ways, and it's storytelling form. It's comic book storytelling in a completely different way than we usually see it, and certainly than we usually see it in superhero comics. So here's the moment, right, where Logan comes outside and basically gets kidnapped. He's bound. There's this awesome, okay, wow, look at that. I mean, just, it's almost hard to talk over because of how much there is on every page. Oh, something else that I think is really cool now that I'm seeing it. These boxes, what we usually use for captions, you know, especially in older comics, they're almost like the narrative, right? The narrator. Here, they're dialogue, and they're colored differently for the different characters who are speaking. So this dialogue has happened at some point in this story, right? Maybe earlier, maybe later than this in this case. And these characters saying these things, you're getting to know them through their dialogue as well as the storytelling that's going on the page. So it's so much, right? It's so much. And it's in many ways claustrophobic. You feel so close to it in some of these panels, you know? You feel so disgusted by it in so many ways too. The breathing machines, the tubes that lead to who knows where. This like man, right? Human man who was taken from his home and who was forced into this thing and who has now become this whatever it is, and who is going to be spoken about like he's not a man at all, like he's a lab experiment. There's something that makes you think back to like the Nazi experiments during World War II or the Japanese experiments during World War II. And it really comes out here. And by the way, torture from the point of view of the perpetrator and from the point of view of the victim, it's all present. Look at this insane panel. Look at this one. Who thinks of that? To go from a tight like this to this upside down Logan to the right side up, you know, it's really something. It's really special. Now, where I want to take us is a little later in the story here. And the reason for that is because you start to see the process take place where the adamantium is being grafted to Logan's bones. Like you start to get, you know, you see it right there, what it's going to become almost. And I think that's really cool. And I think the tight shot we have on him here and the removal of the personality and memory and human being that is Logan has really begun to take place. You know, if you read the story, you hear how his memories are replaced and how so much of what he begins to experience in this lab is the simulation, just training him on what he will now be instead of what he once was, and how they think about him as something else. We're not getting to know Wolverine. We're dissecting Wolverine. We're dehumanizing Wolverine. We're deconstructing this character, a hero or otherwise, right? For me, It's very Cronenbergian. It's very body horror-y. Look at this. And here's the infamous helmet here right beside him. We're going to see more of that a little later on. For me, the surgical and body horror elements are very Cronenbergian. Guys, Cronenbergian, what do I mean? David Cronenberg, of course, the famous film director who made some of those great movies, especially his scarier, weirder movies. The Fly, for example, Videodrome, Scanners, Crash, of course. And recently there was one, Crimes of the Future, which was like an actual surgery performance movie. That's what it was centered on, right? 2 characters into that. So that body horror influence, that body horror element, it's really present here. And I think, I'm sure Barry Windsor-Smith was not inspired by David Cronenberg, but for me, somebody reading it, I find it Cronenbergian, the whole thing. I find it horrifying in that same sort of a way. So I just think it's just a cool aside, just in my opinion. So yeah, okay. Anyway, the next place I want to take us, oh, by the way, okay, this is a must-see panel. I almost jumped past it. This, where Logan is wearing the infamous helmet, right? He's like in VR, basically. He's in the simulation. He's on target. He's being directed. He no longer, we see as we read the story that he barely knows who he is anymore. He has no ability to speak anymore. He's forgotten everything he once was, and he's become what they hoped he would be, this like relentless force. You see him strapped into the technology and the utter entire control placed over him, all his senses being directed, as it were. And that awesome reveal of the adamantium claws coming through his hand, they don't say snicked here. Barry Windsor-Smith, I guess, like decided not to, play on that. The comedy, the brevity, the levity, of comic books is absolutely missing from Weapon X. And by the way, because I talked about recently his work on Conan the Barbarian, particularly his later work on Conan in the Savage Tales and the Savage Sword, this shape, right, is really reminiscent of something we saw then in that video. If you haven't seen it, check it out now. That Kirby-esque action figure shape is here, right? But it's developed so much more by this point. Look at the way, not only the way that he brings technology to it and all the different technology he does bring to it. And you could argue, by the way, that there's a Kirby influence in that. Kirby known for his like mighty, incredible architecture and machines. And of course, his action figure poses. But there's something else here, isn't there? Just looking at this panel, there's something else here, right? You can see that for yourself. I'm sure you can. Now, where I want to jump to, okay, I shouldn't jump yet. Another awesome page, guys, unfolds where you get the Weapon X taking on the beast, right? Can he take down the beast? Can he win this one? And you get to see him in action, and you see how easily, like each fold just decapitates it. Look at the motion and the movement and the blur of it, and the detail, by the way, in every little, almost like every little stroke of the Barry Windsor-Smith pen, and every little panel, every little shot he takes. Look at all the different angles, from the this up-close face view to this wide angle where we get to see the man versus beast, to look at it, the way he moves, the way he, it's a real master at work here. So I want to jump ahead to my last section, and that is here at the end of the story. The palette is so different here, and it makes you wonder, like, obviously this is an escape, right? The Logan, Wolverine, is making his way out back into the world, the natural world. And you get a sense of, from the colors themselves, in my opinion, of the natural world, the harsh technological laboratory that we were trapped in for so long, that he was trapped in too, is gone now, right? It's clear. You feel at peace just looking at it. It's much more peaceful. It's much more calming presence in this. Look at this. Even look, I move my hand across it, and the snowflakes almost moving in that same way, this calming way as he slides down and away and into somewhere else. And if you actually read it, it's one of the great, really great pages, a few pages too. This little episode where the doctors earlier, who we saw earlier, are speaking. Obviously, they were speaking before. Hines and the another one, I can't remember what her name was, speaking about Logan in the lab. What is he? What do you think he is? What is he? Mr. Logan was forced into this. All I see is him suffering. The professor seems to enjoy causing him pain. It's like torture, sir. He's not human after all. He was abducted. He's a mutant. He is human. It's almost like an argument over what is this? Who was he? What is he? How do we look at him? You know, and the way it's presented to us here, almost as if he's reflecting on this conversation too. Like, what am I now? Man or beast? Human or mutant? You know, what will I become? And it sort of ends that way. Logan wandering into the world again. We know, of course, what he becomes, the Wolverine, but that end to the technology in that last panel, you're allowed to infer. Was it a simulation? Well, everything we saw there, was it more than that? That last panel is so suggestive, I think, and so well placed, and it's such a really well told story, and it really is an exhibition of the greatness of Barry Windsor-Smith. And there's more coming up on that topic very soon. So that was Weapon X, guys. One of the great Marvel comics ever produced, and maybe one of the greatest comics of the entire 1990s. If you're a big Barry Windsor-Smith guy, there's a lot more coming up. And like I said, I really want to do a big retrospective, the worlds of Barry Windsor-Smith. So if you've enjoyed the episode on Weapon X, there's a whole lot more coming up. So I'm Dyl Comic Books. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned. See you next time.